Today, running a game of the RPG A Song of Ice and Fire by Green Ronin, I believe. And hold on a second here. There we go, fix that. My camera, for some reason, was messed up. Okay, and that said, we've already done the pre-game stuff of creating a house and creating characters. It's all been handled. A little bit of foreshadowing for those watching at home and for the people in my game. 4 years ago, Robert won his rebellion against House Targaryen as redemption for stealing his betrothed, Lyanna Stark. The peace has kind of fallen to the lands. The Riverlands have remained peaceful, but there are still whispers to some who were loyalists to the defeated dragons, and they are best kind of keeping their mouths shut in pleasant company. But there is still a bit of bad will towards the king, especially since Robert spends a lot of his time in his cups. He's gone on to marry into marry a member of House Lannister, and a lot of people there feel that the Lannisters betrayed the king. And that was the main thing that was responsible for the demise of the Targaryen house. So there are some that are loyal to the Targaryens, despite being so decimated, broken, and sent to the winds. That said, House Goodmen is not one of those loyalist houses. House Goodmen exists to the south of the God's Eye, just alongside the God's Eye River, at a small fortified town there, which is centered with a fortified sept, hall, and tower. The town is mostly white buildings, all fortified, and lots of security in the house. House Goodmen gets its name from its patriarch, an individual whose name was 20 Goodmen, who was a bastard of the Riverlands, who got his name by basically being so great he was said to be worth at least 20 good men by himself. His assistance in the defeat of the Lothsons 80 or so years ago led to him attaining a bit of property and serving as a banner house under House Went, the current rulers over the castle known as Harrenhal, which many people should know as a very popular and important and very massive castle in the Riverlands. That said, the house is ruled at current, some 80 or so years from its generation, by an individual named Ten Goodman, so named by his father, not 20, an individual in between, so 3 generations there. But 10 was named because he was said to be half as good as a real leader of his house. The Slight has sat with Lord 10 Goodman for some time, and he does his best to serve as a strong lord in the Riverlands, despite having a bit of decline in his house. He has 2 children of his own. One individual named Hennessy Goodman, who is his heir. Hennessy will be played by Andy in this game. Hennessy is a martially strong or competent individual, just as his father, just as everybody in House Goodman before him, and serves as one of the 20 Goodmen, who are the honored fighters of this house. He is the 20th of the Goodmen. They're not ranked in their prowess, they are instead ranked by their age. And because of that distinction, the oldest fighter of House Goodman, one Reginald Goodman, a cousin to Lord 20 some 80 years ago, and who has taken up the name to honor that good lord, has served diligently, and some might say very gracefully, through his long years. He is not just a father, but a grandfather, and he is very skilled and martially competent, and he is the one who has been designated as the individual responsible with Hennessy Goodman's training in warfare, warcraft, and the leading of men. Of course, no lord is skilled enough to know enough about the world and the realms to not have strong advisors. Lord 10 has been given such good advisors. One such is Maester from the Citadel named Maester Erlin, but Maester Erlin has been with the house for some time and is quite long of the tooth, and the Citadel feels that his time for his own demise is upon us, probably shortly to happen, quite old. So they have sent a replacement in his stead. He still serves as the maester, and he trains the replacement to understand the intricacies of House Goodman. This individual has served in the house for a couple of years and is taking a shining to the young heir, and is basically more in line with kind of mentoring and learning to that individual than the actual lord, as Maester Erlin still remains alive. This new maester is a bit strange, though, and you'll understand why as the game rolls out. And this maester's name is Maester Warwick, sorry, I apologize. And other advisors that grace the lord, a ward of the house, Summerchild, from the Reach, was sent some time ago, almost a decade ago, and has served in some respect to try and learn a bit more about the Riverlands and the matters at hand in the Riverlands. As some are aware, wards are typically given over to other houses as hostages to serve those houses in specific, cases of more often than not conflict is why hostages are kind of kept too. But House Summerchild is a house that has more male children than any one house would care to have, especially with the desire to take over a house being so great in this world. So Tavion Summerchild was sent as a hostage, being the sixth of his lineage, to basically keep him occupied and away from the matters at hand. He is quite cunning and smart in the ways of trade, and despite there being kind of a decline in the prosperity of House Goodman and their lands, is doing his best to try and make sure that there's an upswing. Certain things that he has done to make sure that that's the case is hiring skilled laborers and making sure trained individuals from the castle of Harrenhal have arrived in these lands to serve, are paid for and kept, and their high training and necessity is made sure that that's important. And one such retainer, is an individual named Kroll Cleaver, a blacksmith who has been brought in from Harrenhal, where he was trained to serve as the castle smith for House Goodman. He serves in the castle known as Invader's Folly, which sits high atop a hill in the town of Goodman's Rise. Of course, the lands are a little bit bigger than just the one town, the fortified town itself. To the north of the town is a smaller village, or a hamlet even, known as Riverbed. Riverbed is known for its fishing, and it's also where the warships of the house are kept. There is a house that rules over that hamlet, a very small house of individuals, known as House Freeman. House Freeman, very minor house, just started not too long ago by the graces of the Lord Goodman, has done its best to, make sure that they are well kept and their ships are well staffed and ready to engage when necessary, and that fish is brought in from the God's Eye at a steady pace. The lord of that small and very minor house is Olivar Freeman, who married the sister to 110 Goodman, which is why he has also a bit of an ear of the Lord as well. That being stated, I believe everyone has been introduced. There is one other minor character I should mention as well. The fortified castle up on the hill in Goodman's Rise is also connected to a fortified sept. And the septon of that church is an individual named Septon Marcus Waxley, who serves the Faith of the Seven. He is the one who anointed Lord 10 Goodman as a knight of the Seven, and he serves the house and its interests and makes sure to keep peace with the other members of the Riverlands, as there are some rumors about that the faith of the old gods is held in priority in some places in this land over the faith of the Seven. And obviously, this is a bit of a sacrilege, a blasphemy that isn't too welcome. But Marcus Waxley has made sure that the rumors are kept at bay. All right. That being stated, it's a normal day in the it's a normal summer day in House Goodman. You are all collectively, for whatever purposes, in Goodman's Rise, which is a very simple town, and a bit of it has already been described to you. But very small, very meager town. The fortified section of the town, the Sept, the hall, and the tower are where most of the activity transpires. At current, Lord Ten Goodman is in a has basically given audience to a visitor of the town, who will be explained to you guys as we continue on. But I'd like to just know what you would say you were doing in the town, Oliver having come for whatever reasons, but what you would be doing in the town, and who you'd be kind of with in the town. And I'll start with the most important of the group. And everybody waits with bated breath, but we all know who it is. Andy, what is Hen Goodman doing in the town?
He's probably training with Reginald, I would say. That's
okay.
Typical thing to be doing.
Okay. And if you'd like to engage in that, we can.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're probably in the yard of the keep.
Sparring or something.
With a bunch of other young, so probably some of the more green boys, just running them through their drills.
Okay. Members of the militia unit for this specific location, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would be sparring with, because Hen is probably, he's like a leg above these other boys, so I'd probably be sparring with him personally, because the others aren't probably really a challenge for him at this point.
And the others are pairing off.
Yeah, exactly. So we're saying, yeah, we're just running. And yeah, might be. Do you want to see let's see how far your training's come? You know.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're obviously
would
using
it be wooden swords?
Just blunted swords.
Yeah.
No live steel. We're
No live
not
steel.
savage. We're not insane like Wolverine types. You know, who use live steel in a training.
Right.
Subtle, but understood. If you guys want to make contested fighting checks, that's perfectly fine. In the meantime, I'm going to traverse over to the others. Kroll Kleber, you're probably not too far from where this contest is going. In fact, you probably have blunted the steel earlier today for their training purposes. That said, is there anything that you want to be doing in particular, watching, or anything in particular?
Honestly, focusing on the job. I'm going to be fixing either of the weapons and making horseshoes.
Okay.
To be honest. Basic supplies for the castle.
Okay. Doing your job. Steady at work. Perfect. All right. Maester Warwick, where would you be in the castle while this is happening? Or, I mean, if you don't have to be there, of course, you could be doing something else. But where would you say Maester Warwick would be?
I would be sort of just continuing my studies with the Elder Maester, just going over whatever errands he has for the day set aside.
Okay. You would know, having been here for a couple of years, that the Maester is actually preparing himself for his end-of-the-month travel to the Isle of Faces. He does this every month, and it looks like he's kind of gathering up his stuff. You presume that he'll either be leaving on the morrow or the next day.
And forgive me, his name was Erwin?
Erlin. E-R...
Erlin.
Basically, Merlin without the M.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, okay, studying, staying focused. All right, Oliver, you've arrived in town for whatever your purposes are, whatever your reasons be. You were basically summoned, out of character note, you were basically summoned by the Lord as he wishes to travel from here and will be requesting your assistance in that passage. But you're here in the fortified hall, and you do have a purpose, but what would you be doing?
I don't know, heading to that purpose, I guess. I assume I would have, sailed in if this place is on the water, but
yeah.
I'd be heading to where I gotta go.
Okay, so you basically moved into the castle courtyard. You would see Hen Penn Goodman, who you probably haven't seen in a couple of years, training there with Reginald, who you've seen several times, and know him well enough. And they appear to be sparring, and other of the green boys of the court are also engaging in in drills. You've seen this before.
Yeah, what you'd first see, based on what we just did, is me and Hennessy kind of get locked in our swords, but then I deliver him a swift kick to the gut and put him on his... Then I kind of guffaw off, say, "On your feet, 5. I have seen you. You're better than that." It's like kind of our thing. When you best me, I call you Hennessy. When I best you, I call you 5.
And you start to head towards the main hall. Tavion, where would you be at this time? You are the only, and I saved you for last for a purpose. You are the only individual that has the option to be in the current audience chamber with 10 Goodmen, if you so decide.
I'd probably be out and about in the town, focusing on our trade.
Okay.
And then I have a question. Which direction does the river flow from the Isle of Faces to the...
River flows south.
So from the Isle to the bay?
No. River flows from the ocean to the Isle. It flows north, sorry.
Then I would be looking for contractors and construction workers and look at building a lock inside of our lands flowing from the bay to the Isle so we can control the flow of water as well as the flow of fish.
Okay.
To increase our trade.
Gotcha. And you would know that the river has an issue of swelling already, so flooding in this area happens quite a bit, which is why most of the town is built up on a hill. But yeah, perfectly fine. Good endeavor there. Okay. Olivar, you move towards the gates, or towards the door. There's no guards or anything. You open the door and enter in. Inside this hall, which isn't very massive or anything, it's nothing too grandiose, you see that Lord Ten is sitting upon a wooden throne, wood that you know was dragged out of the lake, and most of it being weirwood branches and weirwood trunks from the Isle of Faces, taken out of the God's Eye. That's what his throne is made up out of. The other individual who's standing there with him is a man that you don't know, but he seems like a noble, and he dresses like one too. Definitely wearing a bit more pricier garments than Lord Ten, who is dressed in his armor, actually, sitting upon his throne. And the two are talking, and when you enter in, they kind of stop talking. Lord Ten kind of looks at you and says, "Olivar, perfect."
I'm not interrupting, am I?
Of course not. Let me introduce to you. This is Daemon Derry, son of Raymond Derry, of House Derry. The man turns to look at you. He has a very particular look to him. You can see that he's wearing finery. In the picture I'm about to show you, it looks like he's wearing a chain and holding a sword, but the face is mainly what you're looking for. He has long black hair, raven black, a goatee, also solid black. There's a certain kind of purpose in his eyes when he looks to you, and then a certain kind of disregard as he just kind of looks past and through you, like you don't seem to matter, you can feel it. And he turns back to look at Lord Ten. And the, let's see, bear with me here. Of course, Lord Ten, who you guys have seen, as we described him, in his armor, which is silver, he wears kind of a old helmeted, like a very old style helmet. Sitting upon his lap is his sword, the Sword of the Lake, and he wears a red cloak. And most of his armor has been kind of painted white. You are not interrupting at all. We are making ready our travels. Lord Derry is planning to return back to his home, and at the village of Derry, and I mean to travel with him, to stay with his father for a time. I will be bringing an accoutrement, a retinue, with me, and we will take a holiday there for the
I'm
harvest
assuming
feast.
that's why I was sent for.
Of course. And I will, of course, invite you as well to join, as you are one of my banners.
Sounds good to me.
Very good. How is my sister faring?
She fares well, my lord.
Very good. And the catches in Riverbed?
Good as usual, consistent.
Very good. You see Damon kind of turn back to you and look at you for just a second, and then kind of turn back to Lord Goodman. Apartments will be afforded to me, I assume, he says. Lord Ten kind of nods his head. Of course. He kind of gestures with one hand, and you can see that kind of hiding in the shadows. And this is usually how this individual appears to you, and it kind of makes you go, every time it happens. But Septon Marcus Waxley kind of comes out of the shadows, like he was there the whole time, and kind of walks over and says, Lord Derry, with me, and kind of gestures towards the apartments to the side. Ten kind of stands up and graces him as he leaves, and once he does, Ten kind of walks down the dais over to you, Olivar, and grasps your hand in kind of like a warrior's grip, and says, I'm glad you came so quickly.
You know I always will.
I need as many eyes as I can have out and about. The Dairies are good folk, and it's good to have as many friends as we can out in the lands, as many who are loyal to the crown.
Kind of shrug and say, yeah, that figures.
Back outside, as the engagement is continuing, Summerchild, you've dealt with your business through the morning and are kind of making your way back into the hall, the courtyard specifically. By this time, Hen and Reginald, your bars or your bout of sparring is kind of finalized, and you've kind of taken a break yourself, Kroll Cleaver, during this process. Maester Warwick, Maester Erlin has fallen asleep during his packing. You kind of have an idea of what needs to be done to make sure he's ready for the next day's travel or the day after's travel. But you also know that you're free to do whatever you want now at this point as well. What would you like to do?
If I'm sure I've got everything else taken care of well in hand, I would see to the training grounds, make sure nobody's injured themselves during their sparring.
Okay. All right. As you guys are kind of engaging in a bit of a break, you do see that Maester Warwick, who go ahead and describe your character exactly as you would, and we'll get everybody else described here too as they enter into the courtyard together.
Maester Warwick is a massive individual. I don't know what the bloodline would be. Forgive me, I don't know the lore as well as some. But he kind of lumbers out onto the grounds. Seems to stand head and shoulders over most of the men. Dressed very plainly, as many maesters. He has his maester's chain. Very prominent on the chain is a large iron link, signifying that he has mastered the arts of warfare. And he just goes about pacing the grounds, making sure all the men are well tended, nobody's injured. Head shaved, very just dull looking man. Looks to be in his 50s, if you had to guess.
From the look of it, the people who are still sparring are the least competent of the lot and are just kind of engaging in a bit of batting of blades, and you're kind of just shaking your head at that. Kroll, you see the large maester kind of enter into the courtyard. You see that the heir is kind of tiredly kind of sitting off to the side. You can see that the scout from Riverbed is exiting out of the hall, and you can also see that the vizier or advisor Tavion is entering back into the courtyard. So that said, explain what you look like and kind of where you're out and about.
He has long hair. He is very, very stout from just growing up from being a blacksmith. That's what he did his whole life. He is quiet, but everyone who knows him knows that he has a good heart. He's very cordial to everyone he meets. He's not really rude to many people at all.
Okay. And then Tavion, give us a description of what you look like as you re-enter into the courtyard.
Pretty boy with really nice clothes. Just kind of struts in. Probably stands near Kroll, but not really close to him.
Okay. And Oliver, you exit out of the hall and kind of make your way down. Kind of explain what you look like to the others.
Thick brown hair, short. He's got facial hair, like beard, mustache, but mostly it's like 5 o'clock shadow. He's wearing like leathers, cape with a hood, knot up, longbow on his back, dagger and sword at his side. It just looks kind of like a ranger, like a man of the water.
Okay. And Reginald, you're sitting there along with Hennessy, probably biting some dried meat or drinking a bit of water from Waterskin as you're sitting there, kind of taking a breather in between engagements. Tell us what you look like.
Reginald is a elderly man, about 60 years. He just celebrated his probably 60th birthday very recently. Currently, he's in just normal, like a leather double, just training gear. He's not fully armored or anything. Just simple brown leather. He's wearing an old kind of iron helmet with the visor up. Usually in a more formal sense, if you ever has to attend court or if you ever go out for patrols, he wears armor similar to the Lord's, except it's much older and the paint is far more cracked and faded. Anyone who's been here for a while knows he refuses, or I guess Krell or Kleber, the blacksmith, or no, he very rarely, he refuses to get it repaired or have the paint redone. Something about sentiment and what that, it's kind of an old fart in that sense. But yeah, typical kind of grouchy older man. Usually, he's seen giving orders or yelling at his recruits, and seems to be and it always seems to be a little bit meaner to Hennessy than anyone else.
Speaking of Hennessy, young blonde boy sitting next to the older gentleman as they take their break. Tell us what you look like, Andy.
Long, sort of dirty blonde hair, clean shaven face, not for want of trying to grow a beard. 17 years old, so still a young man, hasn't grown into himself. Maybe while he's good with a blade, it maybe looks just a little too big for him still. He hasn't quite grown into it. His leathers perhaps are a bit finer than the other men who are sparring.
And as you guys are kind of all looking to one another out and about, go ahead and free reign. Just discuss what you're discussing. Move to where you're moving. Do what you like, and I'll interject at some point with some nonsense. Go ahead.
That kick hardly felt like fair fighting, Reginald.
Oh, that's what I would expect you to say. I'm a boy who's never truly seen battle. There's no such thing as a fair fight out there. You think your enemies are going to fight fair? They're going to pull a dirk on you. At the last moment, they'll kick you where it really hurts. You got to be ready for anything.
I still have much to learn.
Indeed. And, just the man to teach you. And I'm going to have a decanter of water, and I pour a cup for Hennessy, and I pour another cup, and I say, Warwick, talk some sense into this green boy. He has much to learn of war.
Warwick sort of lumbers over to the pair, places a hand just on the top of Hennessy's head, and just sort of tilts him back and forth, making sure he's not injured.
Well, he's got some bruises from the battle, but nothing serious.
You should know better than to start fights with someone who's so seasoned as Master Reginald. Were he trying, you'd be hard-pressed to be standing right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Someday.
As you are kind of sitting there as well, Oliver, you do see the heir sitting there as well. Tavion, likewise, and Kroll. Break's gone a little long, but you do feel you do have a bit of free open air there. Continue.
I mean, I believe I would still be working, honestly, if somebody would be coming up and wanting their stuff sharpened or selling my wares or just doing the horseshoes, honestly. I mean, very practical smith.
Yeah, you're a castle smith, so you don't really sell anything present. You just make what they want, and you get a stipend to get paid. So yeah, no problem. Okay, and Oliver and Tavion.
I guess I just like observe if they're training and stuff. I guess waiting for next set of orders.
Yeah, I'm just hanging back, seeing what I hear or overhear.
Okay. Yeah, you're not too far off from where Warwick and Hen and Reg are at, so you can overhear what they're saying. You do also notice from your position, Tavion, that the Septon, Marcus Waxley, is kind of approaching that group from the hall, just passing by Oliver Freeman, if Oliver hasn't made his way that way.
To where?
To the heir, to Andy's character.
Sure.
Okay. You kind of see Marcus kind of passing you by, and you kind of step foot to kind of catch up. Marcus doesn't give you much mind, but the Septon kind of walks over to Lord Hen and kind of looks to him. My liege, your Lord Father wishes to speak with you. Your time playing with this old man is quite over. And he kind of gives Reginald kind of like a dismissive glance.
Okay. So Hen would hurry to see the father.
You would know that like there's not really bad blood between the Septon and anyone, but he does seem to have kind of a disregard for fighters. It doesn't seem to be something he cares much for, especially fighters who aren't anointed knights.
At that, Reginald take a swig of water and swallow. You're cutting out training early, Hennessy. I'll expect you to make it up to me tomorrow.
Pulled in so many directions.
Septon Waxley kind of allows Hennessy to go by, doesn't lead you back into the hall, and he turns back and looks to Reginald. Ready the 20 Goodmen. We make leave for House Derry's lands on the morrow, by order of the Lord Goodman.
I'll see it done.
Be sure to bring retainers as well. We will need a metalsmith. We will need a person who can horse or shoe horses, and we will need individuals who are shipwrights. We will be leaving through the God's Eye up to Harrenhal, from Harrenhal towards the Trident, and on to Derrylands. Understood?
Of course. I think I know just the men.
And you know that you and Marcus kind of have a rapport. You understand your word is your word. He wouldn't lie to you. You wouldn't lie to him. He hands you a document, though, and it appears to be kind of like the official order from Lord Goodman, which is not something that often comes up, but when it's serious business and it needs to be officiated, these kind of documents will pop up. But he hands you this effective writ of Lord 10 Goodman, basically putting you in charge of readying the entourage that will leave from here to Harrenhal and then to Derrylands.
Sounds good.
Marcus takes no time to effectuate a necessarily kind goodbye and just kind of leaves you there. Maester Warwick, you're right there, kind of listening as it happens, and Tavion, you're not too far off. You're within earshot, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, "What's going on in Dairylands? What's going on?"
I look over the paper and start kind of murmuring the what I need. So, metalsmith, and I kind of look up Kleber, shipwright, kind of look around. Kevin, is the Lord Freeman in the eye shot, or are you kind of keeping yourself?
He walked up. He's right there.
Yeah, no, I'd be nearby.
Can I look him, my Lord Freeman? You know of this?
I do. That's why I was summoned here to begin with.
All right, so I trust you'll be joining us then.
I will indeed.
Excellent. Oh, I'll need to rally the 20 good men, and you, random name, that I can't think of. Tyronius, come over here. And one of my random better recruits comes over. I'll be out of Invader's Folly for a while. You'll lead the training sessions until my return.
Of course, Lord Reginald. Or Master Reginald. You're not a lord. I'm sorry.
I'm just afraid of you.
It's fine. Remember, blades, then bludgeons, axes, and archery in that order. From sunrise till 1500. I don't know how we keep time, but yeah, that.
Till the dinner bell tolls, my lord. Or to my liege. My master. Whatever. The guy that I'm talking to. Damn it, it's hard to be formal.
Yeah, that. Feudalism.
He cried and runs away. I don't know what to call him.
Alright.
Sir?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
But he's not a lord. He's not an anointed knight.
Dad.
I look to Warwick. You're strong of arms as well. I believe. Good Maester. Will you be able to join us on this trip? I don't think Maester Erlin will be able to. I don't think he will do well on such a long trip for quite some time. But we would definitely need a learned man with us.
Don't let the good maester hear you say such words, but I'm afraid I agree with you. I'll be ready as soon as you're ready to go.
Good. Now I have a blacksmith to find.
Might I suggest good, what was this, Kleber? Kleber?
Kroll.
Indeed, great minds think alike. Here, join me. Let's find the old coot. Even though I don't think he's that old
He's 20.
compared to us.
He's pretty young, isn't he?
Yep, really young.
Let's find that young upstart.
That whippersnapper.
And standing right behind you.
He's so strong.
Yeah, I'm huge.
Stealthy little blacksmith.
I don't know how close the smithy is to where we are, but we go that way.
Not too far away. Right there in the court.
Kleber, get out here.
Yes, sire. How may I help you? He's not a sire, is he? What do we do with this?
Commander.
My liege?
No, none of that. Just, yep, sure, Reginald.
I'm not
Yes.
even anointed. You can't even call me sir. Just
Yeah,
call me
Reginald.
Just call me Reginald.
Or, of course,
Really,
Goodmen.
Pack up your tongs and your hammer. The Lord is taking us to across the God's Eye to Dairylands, and we needed a man of your skill.
That's where I was before, correct?
So,
John?
based on what he just described, your passage should take you through Harrenhal, which is the name
That's
of the
where I
castle
was.
that you
Okay.
were from before. Yeah, before
Got it.
that, you were from farther to the west in Riverbend.
River Run.
Yep. If you look at where the Trident's located, just north of that, you should see a crossland or a cross section there. Dairylands are not too far from there.
Okay, cool. I know the area well. I will prepare everything I can to go.
Perfect. I'm sure one of your apprentices can take care of the day-to-day needs of the castle while you're. If you have apprentice, I don't know.
No, sir.
He is
I
the
have the
apprentice.
place set well enough. I think they'll be fine for my time away, as long as we aren't away too long, of course.
Very good. I will see you on the morrow then.
I'll be ready.
And then I went to rally the 20 good men wherever they may be. I'm sure I know.
Yep, perfectly fine. Tavion, you're just kind of off and idle. Anything in particular you're doing as this kind of situation is popping?
Wondering what's going on and trying to gather information.
Well, it looks like there are several individuals you can try and engage with. Who would you like to talk to?
One that actually knows what's happening.
It looks like Reginald is the one who's thrusting the what's happening, so he might be the one you'd want to talk to.
But from what I overheard, it didn't sound like he was actually given any information, only told to go to a location with people.
Okay.
Never the why.
Then Lord Goodman would be the one you'd want to go to direct to if you want the horse's mouth.
Then yeah, that.
Okay. You enter into the halls. You see that Lord Goodman is kind of sitting idly in his throne, kind of looking just bored. As you enter into the hall, he kind of looks to you. Lord Summerchild, how can I assist you?
Lord Goodman, how are we doing?
Very good. Quite well. We'll be transporting a number of individuals north here to the village of Derry on behest of the son of the Lord there.
May I inquire into what we are doing?
We'll be taking up Harvest Feast at their house. We've been invited to serve as guests to their house, and I do not want to... I do not think there's a better place where we could have such a feast and respect such a holiday. And so I figure me and some individuals will head up that way, spend some time with Raymond Derry.
Dairyland sounds like a fine place for a feast.
Yeah. Go ahead and do me a favor and make me an awareness check.
$21.
He's doesn't seem like he's terribly keen on the whole thing. It sounds like a formality that's being placed to him, and he's kind of just going along with it.
Do you not wish to attend this feast, my lord?
Yeah, no, not really. In particular, I'd rather be doing something more important. I hear rumors of you trying to set up a fortification of the river, and that sounds more intriguing to me than what we're about to do. But
Not necessarily a fortification, but rather, I believe if we control the flow of fish, we can better control the flow of money through our town.
yeah, if we keep it out of the crown lands, I agree.
But I would gladly take this trip in your stead if you need someone of blood to attend, and I could send my contractors to you directly.
I think if
You could oversee the plan.
I think if I only send my heir, then there would be an issue. And as you kind of are standing there and saying that, Hen, the reason why you're not in the hall, and you should be in the hall, because you were obviously walking over in this general direction, is you know that entering into the hall in battle garment, even if it is training garment, would have been inappropriate. So you have actually gone to your own chambers and have changed. As he's kind of finishing that sentence with you, Summerchild, you do see the heir kind of entering into the hall from a side chamber. It kind of causes both of you to silence for a second as you look over to the young heir, and your father, your lord father, is still sitting there on the throne in his armament. Kind of just looks over to you and goes, "Ah, how was your training with Reginald today?"
It was good, my lord. I'm learning through bumps and bruises.
That's the best way to learn. It's the way any Goodman would do it. Tavion, I don't think me going matters at all. I have no desire to meet or treat with House Derry, but it must be done. I do feel that if I had an excuse, I would stay and send my son in my stead. And they're now just kind of speaking about you, Hen, as if you weren't there.
Yeah, Hen looks at the ground, kind of, yeah, uncomfortable.
Do you have an excuse?
I don't currently, but perhaps I can come up with one for you. When are they to leave?
Tomorrow, latest the next day. And of course, the son of Lord Derry is here, so it would have to be something that couldn't be
Pressing.
Yes, something that would be noticeable for someone who is present within Goodman's Rise.
I'll see what I can do.
Very good. My child, your mother and sister will be staying here in Goodman's Rise, but I will be leaving, or perhaps staying. Either way, you will either accompany me or be going in my stead, depending on situations that arise in the town, to go to Dairylands. There you will spend Harvest Feast as a guest of Lord Raymond Derry. On the passage, you will be escorting his son, Damon Derry, to that place. Do you have any questions?
Would you like me to listen for anything in particular?
No. I would like you to be of your own will and of your own mind. But of course, make sure to pay attention to what your advisors and your close compatriots have to say. I believe Maester Erlin will be accompanying you. He may not go all of the way. I believe he has a pressing matter on the Isle of Faces. But I'm certain that Olivar will be transporting him there. The old coot can't swim too well. Reginald will be leading the 20. If I do not go, only 10 of the 20 will go, including yourself, including Reginald. And also, make sure you pay mind to your lord cousin, Olivar. He is a cunning individual. He's made a life for himself, being aware of things that are less than kind, and should be able to see things that you may not be expecting if you're met on the road by ne'er-do-wells, bandits, and the like. Have you heard the rumors of those bandits there, up near the Trident?
No, father.
Well, according to those who have graced my ear with their problems in Goodman lands, near 20 axes, and all along the King's Road, from King's Landing up towards the Trident, there have been individuals known as the Ruby Bandits. Apparently a group of bandits who seek to gather a bit of wealth up and near Harrenhal. House Went is doing what they can to try and deal with the problems, but as a secondary cause to us going to Dairylands, we also wish to see the truth of this matter. If there are truly lawless men who are engaging those who are under the protection of the king, it would fall to House Went, and then it would fall to us to be the ones responsible for dealing with those groups. There's also a mysterious individual who has been seen by others, and only a couple of individuals have been allowed to go free from her malice. A woman known as Reyna the Widow. She is said to be just a killer. A highwayman who just butchers people out on the roads. She's up near the Trident as well, possibly closer to Dairylands than these Ruby Bandits I hear of. And that is just a few of the problems that you might encounter along your way. When you arrive in Harrenhal, when we arrive in Harrenhal, although I hope it's just you, I will make sure that you have a gift to afford to a Lady Went when you arrive there. You can kind of tell that your Lord Father doesn't want to go.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell why, too. He's not a politician. And from what you've overheard over the past couple of days, you're kind of putting pieces together where they weren't present before, and you're realizing that your mother, Domna, has basically put him up to this. Do you have any questions for me, my son?
When Hen kind of puffs up his chest a little bit, he's excited to be representing the house on his own. He says, "No, father, I'll represent us with honor." Sort of that exuberance.
It's another reason I wish for you to be the one who does this, and I hope to find other matters to deal with. I know that you will serve well in being the face for this house, and I know that you have a certain affinity for words where I have no concern for such matters. He kind of shrugs, looking at the throne, kind of picking a bit of bark off of a piece of the tree, kind of tossing it down onto the dais. If you have no other questions, my son, leave me to my, kind of looks around annoyed, duties.
Oh boy. So Hen would bow and leave.
Before he exits, my lord, if I may interject, with the presence of Ruby bandits and Reyna, their presence being so close to Jerry, would it be wise to send our head of house directly into potential danger? Even with 20 Goodmen, bandits can be quite cunning occasionally. Would it be not wiser to leave perhaps the 10 here to guard you, and maybe we could take a longer route since we have up to 2 days to get there and avoid them while we procure more information about them?
I've always liked you, Summer Child. You always have a cunning mannerism. If you were even able to lift a sword, you might make an excellent tactician. That is a good point, and I'll put it to Lord Derry, our guest, at supper this evening. Very good. That is a very solid point. If you would be so kind, see if you cannot find more reports within the town about these bandits, these Ruby bandits. See what we know about them, what their number might be. I would not want to sound a coward, but I really don't want to go.
It's always best to be informed.
Very good.
And I excuse myself.
All right. Hen, do you exit back into your own apartments, or do you head out the same way that Tavion's going?
I'll go out the way Tavion's going.
All right. While that's happening, Reginald, you've kind of mustered up the 20 Goodmen, basically set them to rights, basically getting them ready for the travel. All of our ship can be seen from the north side of the fortified hall. I assume Maester Warwick has kind of followed you around, only stopping to go back and just check in on Maester Erlin for just a moment as you pass by that area. You would find that he's not present in his hall where he was left to sleep. He's kind of moved on, but from what you can tell, he's already packed himself ready. So you assume he's active and doing something proper. And as you guys are kind of engaging in the northern portion of the hall, kind of looking towards the ship and kind of getting everybody motivated and moving their things there, the old maester kind of steps out towards you, kind of looking to you. Reginald, what are you doing with my charge?
Oh, he's helping me rally the 20 Goodmen.
Almost to silence you, he kind of slams the cap of his staff, the steel ringing across the stone as he does so. Did you finish your lessons, boy?
Yes, I did.
Not you.
Is he talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I sort of shuffle my feet, trying not to seem huge in this hallway. Yes, Maester. I'm not sure. Again, I don't know how to address each other.
He very quickly smashes you in the head, like not harshly, but kind of like bonk, like in the forehead. You see him kind of lift the staff up to do it because you're a big bloke, and kind of rats you on the head. You've been, punished.
It's normal.
Yeah, kind of raps you in the head. I can tell from the page number that you did not finish your lesson. You're not ready for the Isle of Faces. Reginald, is it true your master is leaving to Heron Hall and up towards Dairylands?
It is true. It's written here, signed by our Lord's own hand.
By charge of the Citadel, I will make a trip with you as well. Is Oliver the captain of this boat that is heading north? Lord Freeman?
I believe he is.
Good. That will make it easier. I won't have to explain where I need to be docked. Perfect. What time do you plan on leaving in the morning? At sunrise?
Maester, is it wise to leave the castle without a maester? My lady and the Lady Goodman and young daughter Goodman, who's what's her name?
Yeah, the daughter Goodman.
And the daughter Goodman will be here unattended if one of them should fall ill or need the knowledge of a wise man. Is it best that both of you join us on this trip?
You are a cunning individual. Obviously, your necessity for reinforcements and reserve guard and defenses is something you've learned in your many years defending this house, and I respect it. But do not tell me how to lead my life. If you wish to leave Warwick here, as useless as he is at the matters, you can. But I tell you this. Men are men. Gods are gods. And every month I must make sure that I'm there on the Isle of Faces for my rituals. And so I'll be taken there. You can leave Maester Warwick here if it makes you feel comfortable. But I tell you this, it shouldn't matter. If I return back and they are ill, they'll still be ill. I'll only be gone for a day or two.
You are a much wiser man than I, Maester.
I know.
Sure they will.
You do not need to tell me that.
Sure, they will be fine for a day in your absence.
Yes, I thought so too. So then, my question as it stands. You're leaving at first light?
I believe so.
Perfect. I'll be in the docks then. He looks to Warwick, angrily kind of looking up at him. You will finish your studies, your lessons for today, before supper. If you do not, and I find your book unsatisfactorily on a page that you have not been designated to read to, I will make sure the cooks do not feed you. It shouldn't hurt too much. Kind of pats you on the gut with the tip of his staff. You've got plenty there to rot away. Walks away.
Oh, so cold.
I sort of stammer out a nonsense agreement and make sure all of his things are seen to.
Okay. You head back in, kind of like sheepishly. This large, brutish, like awesomely massive man, bullied by this old geezerly type. All right.
He's my boss.
That makes sense. So Tavion, you kind of exit out of the main hall with Hen, and he kind of seems to be kind of following along with you, or just walking in step with you. Engage each other.
And just walks. He's waiting.
Okay. If you two separate, that's fine too. Yeah.
This was Han and Tavian
Yep.
walking out of the Lord's chamber.
Yep. Am I missing something?
Do either of you have anything to say to each other? I think is what he's getting
I
at.
guess not.
I head off to gather information.
Okay.
I head off to be the heir.
So,
Check and check.
Much better deal.
Tavion, the closest a representation of the lay people that's present would be the blacksmith in the court here. If you want to go out into the town and look for like rumors and whispers, there are a number of different places you could do it, but the town is the town, the castle or the keep is the keep.
I'd probably aim for like inbound trade routes, people coming in.
Okay, so you're actually going to leave the keep and go out there, and
Yeah, I think you get better information from people that were recently out there.
makes sense.
Uh,
Okay.
Can Hen go and visit? Is it Kleber?
Yeah. Roll
The
Cleaver.
little lord's room.
And ask him to pay special care to his armor before the trip, in case there's any trouble. Is that what? Would he be
Sure.
the right person for the job?
Yeah, he's the keep smith. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Chody.
You there, Chris?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries. So Hen would go visit the Kleber and want to make sure his armor is all set because it seems like there might be trouble on the road.
He would, once you got there, he would be willing to do it, but also definitely would not be very jumping at it, because as you got there, you will see a lot of his stuff has been kind of packed up. He's been getting ready to go quickly. So there is his like a small forge that he can use, but it's definitely not his main equipment. He has his stuff ready to go, but he'll definitely take a look at it as because of who you are.
Do me
All
a,
right.
do me a favor, and let's see, what would blacksmithing be under? Uh, just make an awareness check for me, Jody.
12.
So the young lord has never seen conflict, and his armor is as fine as it gets. The training armor he wears is not what he'd be wearing. So as he kind of like states that and kind of tells you about it, you immediately kind of go, I don't want to do all these extra pieces of work. It's kind of pointless. And then you think about it and you go, just dust it off.
No, he would definitely, just because of trying to be nice about it, he would definitely take it, kind of make it look like he's really giving it a once over, but he would definitely be like, oh no, sir, this stuff's immaculate. Whoever built this is very, very skilled, and it looks like it has
You
been able
built
to
it.
hold up to a. Yeah, well, okay, yeah, that's what I felt.
My word still
Like,
stands.
his own
Whoever
horn,
built it-
John.
Yeah.
Still
There we go.
stands.
Listen, the man who made this is the best.
Just boil it.
And
Probably handsome, I bet.
right. And
probably
from
the
your
coolest guy
skill,
ever.
it definitely doesn't seem like it has taken much of a beating, so it looks good, sir.
All right.
Okay. All right. That said, you are heading out, Tavion, and as you're doing so, you kind of come out of the gates and are kind of making your way down the hill. But as you're doing so, you do see a small group of individuals on horse riding up the hill. It would appear that there are two lords amongst this group heading up to the house. You've heard nothing of lords entering besides Damon Derry. There shouldn't be anybody coming this way. But looking at the iconography, you do recognize that they are lords. Let's see. Go ahead and make me a status check.
Who?
This would be for Tavion.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Okay. You recognize one of them and not the other. There are two marks of heraldry. Hold on a second here. One of the marks is a blue field with a bright gold yellow triangle and a small sun in one corner of the field. And that's the one you don't recognize. And then the other one is a circular banner, which makes it a Dornish banner. And it has a yellow field with a green dragon eating its own tail upon it. And you recognize that as House Tulland. House Tulland is also the house that the lady of the house, Domna Goodmen, yields from. Her maiden name is Tulland.
So I would assume they're just here to see her.
That would be a good presumption.
I just give them the usual lordly nonsense as they ride by.
The 5 individuals ride up, and as they do so, a couple of the soldiers within kind of move to address them and very quickly allow them in, take their horses, and move them to stables within the hall as you make your way back down the hill. Heading from your position at the blacksmith, you can see these individuals kind of dismounting. You recognize the Toland as Cicero Toland. Cicero Toland is the brother to your Lord Mother.
But I recognize the other banner as well.
You make a status check.
Oh, yeah. So which I have breeding and stewardship, or how do I do that?
So breeding wouldn't be important here. It's not a check towards like breeding. It would be, I think there's a heraldry under status. Double check here.
See it.
For specialties,
I rolled a 21.
House Leaford. And House Leaford is a Westerlands house. It is a banner house to House Lannister.
And what was the other one?
House Tulland, which is House Tulland of Ghost Hill. It's a Dornish house.
Is there a place in the book that has all these listed?
No,
Okay.
but there's a internet.
Cools.
Okay, they're dismounting, and again, like I said, the individual from House Tulland, his name is Cicero Tulland, and he is your mother's brother.
Okay. Would I see him?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. I would say welcome, Uncle.
Ah, little hen. Hey, what are you doing out in the courtyard?
We're preparing to travel to the Dairylands.
Oh, you're going with your father?
I believe so.
The individual who dismounts from the Lifford horse kind of looks to you, and he says, "Your Lord Hennessy Goodmen, is that right?"
Sir?
This large individual kind of reaches down to kind of give you a warrior's handshake.
Okay.
And
I would
his
shake it.
golden armor is very ornate. He wears a red Lannister cape, despite not being a member of House Lannister. Just a banner of it. Kind of gives you a solid shake, and he says, "I am Morton Lefford. I have been asked here by your Lord Father to assist in some matters regarding your southernmost fortification, your southernmost hamlet, Black Soil."
Well met. And then I would say, I've just spoken with my father, and would there be someone to lead him to 10?
You would gesture towards the hall. It doesn't look like there are any attendants. It's not really a thing that you
Okay.
have.
Got it.
Cicero kind of nods, "I know the way," and kind of heads in that direction. The other 3 kind of stay back and about, but they also appear to be Lefford men, and they don't appear to be associated with Cicero Toland. And those 2 individuals, though, go into the hall. All right. As you're kind of moseying about, doing your things, work, you're kind of sitting patiently, kind of going over the studies, and you've come to the end of the lesson, and you feel like you've completed it. And just at about that time, as you're kind of like still rubbing a bit of your forehead and just kind of focused in on the words, you hear ching tong ching, and you know that would be the bell for supper being rang out from the Lord's feast hall.
I would wait a few extra minutes so it doesn't seem as though I've been waiting for the dinner bell.
Very nice.
But I would, after a short amount of time, begin my stroll towards the feast hall.
Okay. Before anyone else, Oliver, you enter into the feast hall, and you see that there have been seats made ready on the dais. There's, of course, the the branches throne of House Goodman, which is being sat upon by Lord Ten. And he's still just kind of sitting there idly. It looks like he hasn't moved much throughout the day. Sitting to his left is his wife, Lady Domna Goodman, and to her left is an individual who you met once before, and you think you remember his name being Cicero or something strange, but you're pretty sure that he's the brother of the lady of the house. To the left, some more. There are some other individuals who are sitting. And then to the right of him, there is a position that's being set for someone else, and you would know that your position would be to the right of that seat. So you'd be sitting one over from 10 up on the dais. And then you would know that the heir of the house is given position to the far right, along with his sister. There are 2 seats on the far right of that table at the top.
So I get to sit right next to the Lord himself.
Well, it'd be the Lord, somebody else who you don't know of, and then you.
Damn, okay. Status.
Right. If you guys take your seats, beverages are set out, and other individuals enter in. The next group that enters in after the Lords are allowed access into the place is the 10, or Reginald and the Goodmen. You enter in and move to your positions of defense. Basically, the 20 Goodmen eat at a long table that sits right in front of the dais, and your individuals sit there as well. And then the retainers and the like are allowed access in. Kroll, Kleber, you've been actually afforded guest right into this dining hall, as has anybody who has been given orders to go with the company to the north. And the person who's sitting...
I feel
Go ahead.
out of place.
Of course. It's not the first time you've eaten in this hall, though. You've been here
Feel
for...
never comfortable.
It's not... Yeah, it's certainly not your own little like hovel and where you eat and stuff. But the maesters enter in as well. They're not given any affordments. They're actually given a smaller table off to the near the door. Tavion,
If there's not a seating arrangement, I would try to offer a space at the maester's table, if that would be permissible.
Yeah.
To Kroll.
There's not really a seating arrangement. Yeah, so it's absolutely
Okay.
something you could do.
Minus the fact that Erlin has ensured that my sturdy, well-made chair has been sawed down so that I do sit lower than he does.
Right. And also that it's enough to hold you as well. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's been reinforced, but he also had somebody saw the legs down, so I'm
Of course.
very much squatting.
And Tavion, you are allowed into the dining hall to eat as well, but it seems like a lot of what you're kind of probably paying attention to is the servers and paying attention to like everything, so that everything's kind of to the point, because you're probably the one who paid for everything here and engaged in this process.
I probably excused myself from this dinner ahead of time because of matters in the market
Fair.
to gather information.
Oh God, I forgot about that. I'm such a bad
Oh,
storyteller.
you're good. Just I'm out there while they're doing this.
Okay, so do me a favor. Let's go ahead and handle that as sun's kind of downing. Do me a favor and make me a... Let's go with cunning.
You're all about the cunning.
There's a streetwise under cunning if he's got it.
If
I'll
you
have it.
Yeah, okay, good. So just cunning.
17.
Okay, so here's the information that you learn about. You learn that the Ruby Bandits are led by an individual called Old One-Eye, a surly old militiaman who fought on the side of the Targaryen prince at the Battle of the Trident. His eye was gouged out by one of the 20 Goodmen. You're not sure which. No names are actually given in that regard in the rumors. But the individual absolutely has slight against House Goodman. And possibly a revenge purpose as well. They reside around Harrenhal, and the Wents have been able to keep them to kind of a bay, but out on the road and especially near the rivers, they are not very keen on being able to do that. Is Streetwise under knowledge?
Yeah,
Oh, I should have had to make a knowledge.
cunning and knowledge seem just backwards.
Yeah. Is your knowledge the same as your cunning, Jeremy?
That's one less.
Oh, okay. Don't worry about it. They would have still been over with that roll. It's fine. So yeah, it seems that the individual who leads these Ruby bandits would have cause to want to cause issue with an entourage of Goodmen passing through that area. Yeah, you would with that roll also learn that this Reyna the Widow, from what you can understand, is just a woman who's going around and butchering people. Some people at small inns along the road, and she's actually made. From what you understand, she's actually made her way into Harrenhal and has killed killed one of the captains of the guard in that castle.
Jesus.
You
I
don't
would
know.
keep all of that information. After collecting all of that, I would head back to the castle, take my dinner in my quarters or whatever other chamber is acceptable,
Staying away
and
from
send
the
word
feast.
that I would need to. Yeah, I would need to speak to the Lord after in semi-private quarters.
Okay. Those of you who are in the feast, the person who sits next to the Lord is the Derry boy, Damon Derry. Like I said, long raven black hair, dark black goatee. He's wearing kind of a purplish looking cloak and brown kind of clothing with the symbol of House Derry emblazoned upon
How
it.
old is he?
Probably mid-20s. Or early 20s. About Cleaver's age. Yeah, I posted his picture a while ago. I'll do it again here. Boom, bam, that guy. Taking his seat next to Lord Goodman. They are having a very just boring conversation. Oliver sitting next to these two. You can kind of overhear it. It just sounds like just small talk to a stunted and boring degree. The feast isn't much of a feast. It seems to be just a normal supper, but just served for a guest. Nothing too much has been kind of put out. And you can kind of tell that the dairy and the Leaford are kind of like upset by it. And the Leaford kind of sits at a table not too far from. He seems to be kind of like upset that he hasn't been given a position of privilege, and he hasn't been given much in the way of good supper. But everyone should be thinking, you just arrived here right before dinner, man. We didn't know you were coming. Shut up. Kind of situation. So there's that. Anything you guys want to engage in. Maester Erlin is not present for you, Maester Warwick, so it's just you and Cleaver if he sat with you.
Very cool. I would just make small talk about smithing and the craft. That's one of my preferred studies. While I was studying under the Citadel, it would seem pretty obvious that I get fairly bored with a portion of the studies that are thrust upon me.
I would definitely feel shocked that a maester would actually be studying smithing, and would be very excited to talk to him about it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't have much. I would show him that I have the I can't remember which metal it is, but I have the smithing link. Is it just iron?
No, hold on.
No, iron was warfare, wasn't it?
Was it black iron?
I think it's
Black iron was ravenry.
Yeah, that's right.
Steel, maybe. I don't see it.
Yeah, I think it might be steel.
But I would just sort of wag the
Pale
link.
steel.
Oh,
is it?
thanks.
Okay.
And we're all aware that we're going on this trip in the morning. I would just discuss my equipment, asking if it would be acceptable to him to have it in transit with his goods.
Oh yes, the art of smithing is a great one, but I will definitely say the worst part of it is traveling with the swinging the hammer is nothing.
Tell me about it.
But yes, you can of course put your stuff with mine. We'll find a way to move it. I got an old donkey that will is up to the challenge of pulling it.
Outstanding. That's really it. Just small talk about smithing and making sure we have a method of moving equipment.
Okay. And you and your sister are kind of sitting off to the side. She's very young. She's probably only about 6 or 7 years old. And she's so unimportant, I haven't even named her. But if you want to make her important and talk to her, you can.
Sure. I will call her Rayanna,
Rihanna.
and I will say, "How are you, sister?"
Oh, I'm good. Mother, she and I, we went down to the shore and found smooth stones.
That's nice. I have an important task for you.
Oh,
Yes, you might have heard. There's lots of preparations for many of us to travel to Dare.
yeah,
If Father stays home, I'd like you to look out for him. He seems distracted.
of course, of course. Yeah, me and Mother will do so.
Very good. Very good.
The din of like the conversation has kind of grown a little louder, specifically over by where Leaford sits, and you can see that sitting on the dais, your Lord Mother is kind of having a conversation with her brother, while you can see that your father's eyes from earlier when he was annoyed about even going on this quest still have kind of the same look as he's talking to this dairy lord, like just kind of you can tell your father just doesn't want to be here doing this. And he kind of is sitting there for a bit, and a young page kind of runs over to him and kind of whispers something in his ear. Lord Goodman kind of looks to him, kind of stands up and addresses the hall and says, "I will return. I simply wish to relieve myself and deal with a specific matter. I will return." And it kind of exits the hall. As it's happening, you can see that no one really particularly takes any notice of that. It's not terribly important. And the feasting continues. Anything you want to go ahead?
I would say, am I close enough to Cicero and my mother to be able to make out any of their conversation?
They're on the same dais. They're not too far. They're a couple seats down from you. So, yeah, you can kind of hear what they're talking about. It sounds like they're talking about House Tolland, and Cicero's kind of talking about how he spent the last few months in King's Landing as a guest there, and kind of just talking about, it sounds like he's talking about stuff that's a little bit less than lordly, brothels, and it's kind of making your mother kind of blush and kind of like about it, and kind of like she can see that she often gestures for him to kind of keep it down.
But nothing, let's say, about the Baratheons or the Lannisters or anything.
No, nothing terribly particular. You do know from what you've overheard, the people of Dorne aren't terribly keen on House Baratheon.
Sure.
Because of how the Dornish, the House Martell was treated during the rebellion.
Right.
But it would seem that the Tollans are kind of under the radar in that regard.
Is Lefford nearby to hear any of this? Because I guess that he would be.
He's a ways away. It sounds like he's being
Okay.
kind of belligerent with a couple of the 20 Goodmen. They're not having a scuffle or anything, but it sounds like there's a heated argument about tactics.
Oh, is Reginald involved in that?
I don't know, is he? You overhear it. Do you want to enter into it? It's not too far from where you're sitting.
Only if one of the sides is sounding really stupid, whether it's one of my guys or this. Oh, but if they're just it's just kind of a back and forth, and I don't really give it mine. But if one of them says something really dumb, then I'd probably be like, okay, look here, Sonny.
It's one of the younger ones of your group, 18, and he's kind of the 18th of the 20, and he's kind of like, it sounded like at the very beginning he was trying to kind of come in with a jagged word of, what the Lannisters did in King's Landing 4 years ago was terrible, and what the repute of the Lannister house's willingness to do anything, it's dishonorable, and it's unbecoming. And Lefford says, we do what has to be done. We do what has to be done for the peace of the land, for the kingdom the kingdom of Robert Baratheon to be kept whole. And it sounds like one is kind of like trying to dismiss the honor of the Lannister house based on, just a lot of people in the Riverlands aren't fans of them because of the way it all kind of wound down. So, yeah.
Yeah, if it's just kind of a back and forth, nothing too crazy, then it sounds like it's. Yeah, I would probably just I don't really do too much small talk with the younger 20 Goodmen. It's mostly if I'm going to interact with them, it'll be for training or orders. But 2 and 3 are like my good friends, even though they're probably like still 20 years my younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just kind of having small talk. They're asking, do you think we'll run into problems? Or, I heard there might be bandits. And Ren just kind of just like, well, we could use a fight. Kind of, keeps the joints loose. I wouldn't mind a fight, but even though I doubt bandits will give us much trouble. Just kind of that kind of.
Can't even swing a sword right.
Yeah, cowards using daggers in the dark.
Well, I believe one would be worth 20. And kind of raises his cup to you.
You're here, and we just clang and ale splashes, and we're just laughing.
Having a good.
They're good guy.
Having a good night. Summer child, you're sitting in your room waiting, kind of just you've got your supper and your wine, kind of just like slowly moving it around in your cup. The door opens and in walks Lord Goodman. You called for me?
Has the feast completed?
No. But I needed an excuse to get out of there, so I did not take the page's request to wait until after.
I think, if we may, I think we should include number 1 in this as well.
Reginald?
Yes.
Of course. What is the matter? Explain it.
The Ruby bandits to the north, it seems like they're led by someone called One Eye, and one of his, at some point, number 1's, has slighted him somehow, so he's very much targeting the Goodmen. So your traveling with them would make you a rather large target as well.
Interesting.
I believe it may be wiser to travel with a smaller group and, as I said before, take the longer route. Maybe take an extra day to get there to avoid them, or just move a little more quietly.
Other good news.
And past that, I'm sure this is bad news, sir. But past that, to the north in Haverhall, we have an issue with the one called Reyna, where I guess she's already made quite the stir up there. I think upon our men's return after this feast, perhaps you could spare 4 or 5 of the stealthier ones to move north and deal with that to reinforce our trade and our rapport with our neighbors to the north.
Reyna. Yes, I've heard rumors. I've also heard the name before. It rings a bell, but I do not recall from where. Very good. The Lord Brother of my wife has also brought good news from King's Landing. Apparently, he will be staying with us, and guest right is important to uphold, so I will be staying here with him. I will make sure that this information is brought forward, and I will go along with the plan as I desired it in the hall before. My son will make his way to Dairylands, and he will return after Harvest Feast. He shuts the door behind him. I have an important matter for you to deal with when you're
Name it.
there. I don't trust the Dairies, nor do I like them. Rumors abound that they are Targaryen loyalists. They fought alongside the dragon at the Battle of the Trident. And if what they say is true, it may be their cause to try and bring forth rebellious people. We've had our fill of rebellions. And the one that was fought was won dutifully. If the reports are true of what the Mad King Targaryen did to the Starks, it's absolutely mandatory that Robert's rule holds true. The last of the Targaryens were a foolish lot. They dishonored the entirety of the kingdom. Robert, by trial of combat, won the day. And now he reigns. If you could find any report or anything that would tie the Dairies to being Targaryen loyalists and possibly rebels, that information would be of utmost importance. But physical proof would be absolutely mandatory in securing that information. Words do go far, but as I'm sure you're aware, words are words. Things are things. Solid things are important to proving.
What types of physical proof would you be looking for, my lord?
I don't know. If I knew that, I would be able to report on it myself and demand that these things are brought from the dairies to the king. But I do not know what I seek or if the matter is true. Something about that Damon boy's face. I just want to punch it in. I just feel like he's... You're slick and cunning, and sometimes you do things that serve you for the better, but I just feel like I can't trust a thing that's spat out of that man's mouth. Ever since he's been here, I just want to slug him. He kind of shrugs. I can't explain it better than that. But your duty would be that. If you go, you will be going with my son to the village of Derry. And if there's anything that you can find that proves that they are what I presume they are, bring it to me.
I shall do my best.
I'll make sure Reginald comes to you before the evening is done. He kind of looks to your cup. Don't go too deep into those. And good luck on your travels. I'll see you off in the morning. He slowly opens the door and heads back out. The fest hall is kind of winding down at this point. The Leaford has kind of left annoyed. But it does sound like a couple of the younger boys that weren't that were kind of siding with your guy kind of changed their minds about midway through the conversation and tactics and kind of saw the wisdom of what the guys were saying or what the guy was saying. What you overheard, Hen, from your Lord Mother and her brother is, again, pretty much petty gossip, but mostly about King's Landing and a lot about rumors that Robert Baratheon is quite the partier, and Cicero claims to have partied with him. Warwick and Kroll, you guys have a pretty hearty conversation about smithing, and the smith, one of the seven, kind of goes into a slightly religious, cant, even though neither of you are really probably very religious. I don't know, maybe you are. Okay, and then Oliver, you're sitting not too far off from this Damon Derry, and when Ten kind of leaves, it kind of falls to you to have a conversation with him, but he seems to just be kind of recluse in the dialogue, and you're not terribly... are you trying to engage with him, or just kind of holding back?
No, as soon as he doesn't talk, I guess I'd maybe try and press him one more time, and then if he turns off again, that's...
Yeah, he seems to kind of... You know how you look, and you're not like dressed to the nines or in any kind of regalia. And your word of like your house is not uncommon. He's probably been told about you, and so it seems like he's kind of treating you like most people who understand what your stock is kind of treat you. It's not the first time. It probably won't be the last, but you're not terribly concerned.
Probably used to.
Yeah. Lord Goodman comes back into the hall, kind of moves to his cold plate, and kind of stands over his throne, kind of looking at it, poking at it, looks to his wife, and he says, "I'm ready for bed. Feel free to continue the warmth of my hearth and the extent of my cups. I will be going to sleep." He looks to Lord Derry. "I must inform you that I will not be accompanying you on your travel north. We have honored guests who remain, and it is my duty to make sure that they are attended to. Also, there are reports on the road that will be of interest to you as you continue your travels. However, my entourage will be headed up by my heir and my son, Hennessy Goodman, and he will be championed and guarded over by half of my 20. He looks over to Reginald and kind of walks over to him. "Choose one. He will serve as the leader of the 10 that remain, and then choose 8 more to go with you and my son as the remainder of the 20. And then he kind of looks down at you, and like as seeing everyone kind of paying attention to you, he just whispers kind of down to you, "And go up and speak to Tavian Summerchild before you bed down."
My lord.
He nods, walks back over to his wife, looks to Cicero and says, "I apologize I don't boast the warmth and sultriness of King's Landing, but I'm sure if you travel into the town, you might be able to find something to keep you occupied. I will see you in the morning, and of course I will be taking you on a tour of the town, and we will make the next few days a trip of the lands so you can see what we have." And he looks around. "Where is the Leifert man?" Kind of looking around, kind of idly. The wife kind of leans in and whispers something to him. He says, well, I will dialogue with him in the morning for breakfast. When we break our fast." And then he kind of steps aside with his wife, and they leave. The rest of you, I presume, head to bed, correct?
I'll clap number 2, whose name will be Henry, and they say, like, "Choose your 9, I'll take the rest." Then I'll make for Summerchild's.
He looks at you and he says, "There's not much going on in the Goodman lands, and I'm sure all we'll be doing is wandering around with the Lord as he goes around to the different hamlets. So I'll take the worst of the 9, and you take the best." And you already know who it is, and there's one in the top 10 that's not so good, like 4 or 5, who's kind of weaker on the pull, and then the rest of the young boys, the younger, especially 18, suck, and they kind of just discard them to him. He says, "I'll deal with the rabble. You take the stronger folk."
Sounds good. And make sure you drill 18. He needs to get a little wet behind the ears.
Maybe a solid kick to the stomach. He kind of looks at you for like having paid attention to you when you were fighting with Hen.
I clap him on the shoulder and smile, and then I'll depart like I'm leaving to my quarters, but I'll head to Summerchild's room.
Knock on the door.
Yeah, I open that.
"You want to see me, Summerchild?"
Yes, I have information for you. The Ruby bandits to the north are probably targeting your men. It seems at some point one of yours has slighted him, and he's very much the reason he's called One Eye at this point. So
when did we slight this man?
I can't be positive of the time that it happened. Only that the Goodmen are very much the target of this man's vengeance.
What can one man do against us? What could 20?
He has his contingent of bandits. Granted, you are the 10 of 20, which is good for, 200?
As you say.
But an errant projectile is an errant projectile. It may be wiser to take a slightly longer route, as they're not expecting us immediately. And
As long as it falls within, as long as we can still get there on time, and you pass it by the Lord Hennessy. Though I do agree with you, I would keep our charge safe.
he had already spoken of it being a day's travel or the next, if it need be. I don't think anyone would be too amiss if we were a day later.
We'll have to discuss with the Lord and, of course, Lord Derry. Unfortunately, no doubt may have problems with arriving late. But I do agree with you. We will
Not late.
take the safest route.
Not late, as expected, just at the maximum allotted amount of time.
Will we still be going by ship?
That's up to you. You're in charge.
Alright, because we do need to drop Maester Erlin at his island for his reason. So I will say we will still go by ship across. And I do believe we are expected by the Lady Wen. We will not... It would be a slight to not show up if she's expecting us.
Master Erwin is expected on the Isle, is he not?
He is.
Perhaps we drop him, turn back, and head back to Green Dot on map and travel on foot from there. Within our own lands.
Seems counterproductive, but if you feel it is safe, and if all parties agree, then I'm okay with it.
The additional matter to see to for you and yours would be the Reyna, as she's been called. I guess she's been in Harrenhal and done quite a bit of damage already. Perhaps you have a contingent of a smaller group of men that are slightly more stealthy and cunning. Perhaps we can send them with good face to deal with that problem on behalf of Harrenhal and turn it over to them to deal with, to finish. Where we don't step in and impose ourselves, but we can help our neighbor.
The good men do not lurk in the shadows. I'm afraid I do not have men who can sneak and sly. When we stop at Harrenhal, I will do a once-over. The fortress is massive, and it will take time. But we can we will scout it out.
I mean, act without being recognized. Maybe don't send 1 through 4, but maybe some of the lower numbers who haven't yet made a name for themselves and can act without bringing too much attention back on us. We don't want anyone to assume that Harrenhal can't deal with its own problems. We want to build a rapport and sustain strong trade there.
Summerchild, you are a bit of a foreigner to these lands, so I will grant you this courtesy. All men who are part of the 20 have made a name for themselves. Not one is unknown. We are all a brotherhood. But I do acknowledge your plan, and may I suggest Freeman and his rangers may be better suited to this task. They are men of the woods, they are men of the wild, ironborn at one time. They may be better suited. They will be ferrying us across the lakes, and I'm sure the Lord is would be happy to get in the good graces of Lady Went, as he is a upstart lord himself. Getting in the graces of our Lord Paramore would be quite beneficial for him. Rooting out this murderer for her would definitely put him in her good graces.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And if that's that, for the evening, you all move towards your chambers for sleep, awaiting your awakening in the morning, to head to the coast of the God's Eye, and head from there aboard Oliver Freeman's boat up north towards Harrenhal, and then onwards towards Dairylands. All right. Any questions? Any concerns? Anything of request or input before I kill the stream?
No.
Nope.
All right. Stopping the stream. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.